Nieves is a former NYPD detective and says...
The late photographer, journalist Ardina Seward. Nice to see you, Ardina.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
All right. Hello, everybody out there in viewer land, and welcome to Your Pet Detective. I'm Ardina Seward. That guy over there is Angel Nieves, a former NYPD detective and policeman. I don't want to say policeman. Look, we're from the Bronx. He was a cop, a detective. And I want to throw a line out there. Okay. The line is, man saves dog. All right? But we're going to reverse it tonight. Dog saves man. Now, if you're intrigued, we have a very unique guest. His name is Charlie Cifarelli. He's a New York guy, former New York guy that lives now in Nebraska. And without giving you too much information, he rescued a dog. And in the end, that dog ended up rescuing him in many, many ways. Angel has some videotape that's going to give you more information. Let's go to the tape.
All right.
Dog. She took a bullet for her former owner several years ago. Her current owner says they attend the walk every year because he lost a family member.
Okay, there you have it. We didn't have a lot of narrative on that, so I'm going to give you the 60-second summary and then let Charlie take over. Back in 2012, there was a lovely pit bull on the Lower East Side who belonged to a 29-year-old man who had a seizure. Man fell down on the sidewalk. Police were called. Police came, and the dog did what dogs were doing. Dogs naturally do. The dog lunged at the cop to protect his owner. And the cop in turn shot the dog. I mean, not just shot the dog, but shot the dog really badly, near death. The owner was arrested for reasons other than we're going to get into on the show. But the dog ended up with a rescue group. And we're talking big bucks. We're talking upwards of 10 grand to get this dog back up to speed. Fast forward to Charlie Cifarelli, who is our guest, former New Yorker living in Nebraska, who reads New York news constantly and stays updated. He read about the dog, and a light bulb went off in Charlie's head, and Charlie said, I have got to save that dog. I've got to save that dog. He dropped what he was doing. He basically put his business on pause. He came to New York, and he was in pursuit of that dog. Make a long story short, Charlie ended up with that dog. But the dog did more for him than he did for that dog. Am I right, Charlie?
You're right. You're right. That intro was pretty emotional for me.
So you know something? It's a long story, and your life is a long story. Your life basically is a miracle. I mean, look, you started out in Astoria. By the time you were 17 years old, you were virtually homeless. Even before 17. I mean, when you were 12, 13 years old, you were sleeping in your home. And you were pretty much on your own. You had two parents, but you were on your own. By the time you're 17, you're on the street. You got into some stuff, and you had a rocky life up until a certain point. And that dog ended up being not only your emotional support dog, but your salvation. So just, give us a summary of who you are and what happened.
New York guy, grew up in a really dysfunctional family, and I was already thrown out at 8, 12, 13, and of course by the end 17. And I was always in survival mode. There was no college. There was no thoughts of a future. My thoughts were, how am I going to eat today and get a roof over my head? And, I wound up gravitating to the worst parts of New York, East New York. And not that the people there were bad. I mean, the citizens that lived there, but, the drugs were there. And ultimately, I navigated through a lot of craziness. And I got saved by taking a leap of faith, and I moved to Nebraska in the middle of the country. And like everything else, I needed a job. And the only place that would hire me was the Department of Corrections. So I, in turn, went through the academy. And I don't have any middle ground. I'm either telling the truth or I'm lying. I'm either clean or I'm dirty. There's no in between. I did the job. I moved up. I was successful in the job. I would like to think I did a lot of good things because I did the job correctly. And I also brought hope to the men that were doing time, because the public needs to know most people in the penitentiary will be your neighbors eventually. They will get out. And if they don't learn nothing in prison, they're going to repeat. So I like to think that I was a good role model because I could identify. And I got into the trash business, and I made myself a heck of a living. But I was hurt inside. I never told anybody what happened to me. And when Star was shot on August 13, 2012, when I saw her homeless owner on the street, I identified with both of them. And I initially wanted to help the owner, but he didn't want help. He wanted to go back to his native Poland. And the city of New York became the lawful owners of the dog. And then I ultimately became my whole goal was to give Star a home, even though that people didn't think that she survived the shooting, which the New York City police said she had died, along with the headlines in the CBS News. But there were other people that were rallying for Star, the Gothamist, New York Magazine, PIX News, which we were one of the top stories eventually in 14, 2 years after. And there was so much good energy, and the New Yorkers and people globally came together. So I got this dog. And once I got this dog, I was able to do my life in reverse. I was able to say, okay, I have this business, I've made money, I know what this feels like. But this is going to give me an opportunity to be a kid again. And that's what I did. But a kid in an adult mind. We did cancer walks for canines. We did Alzheimer's walks for human beings. We brought hope to people in the hospital. And people from all over the world reached out to me because Star was a lightning rod for hope. Because people believed she was a spiritual creature. She was another Lazarus. She had died and came back to life. So my life took real shape, and I got out of the survival mode. Even though I left New York never left me. When I was in a trash business, I was always thinking the worst. Well, what happens if the business fails? What happens this? What happens that? Mm-hmm. That was all gone. Once I got the dog and we did service work, it was the greatest feeling in the world that I got. And that's where the dog took me.
She had been through, both you and the dog have been through an insufferable trauma. You
Yes.
experienced that from, you were a little boy. You were a little boy. And with Star, she lost her eye. And when you got Star, was her personality altered? Was she timid, or she was just the wonderful dog that she was always?
First of all, she, as far as dog smarts, was off the charts. She was a very, very intelligent dog that knew how to cross the street growing up in New York City. I would say Star loved people, but she didn't take any nonsense from other dogs. And Star, she was a true celebrity. She liked a nice entry where people would say, because I had her on many stages, "Hi, Star," this and that. But then she just wanted it to calm down. And she played up to the cameras, and God, was she photographed a lot. I mean, she made the front pages of the Omaha World Herald. She was in Nebraska TV regularly, and she just knew how to do her deal. We both suffered from a tremendous amount of trauma. And she would sleep next to me. And we unpacked so much trauma. When I first got Star, she wouldn't let you touch her skull because of the trauma. But in time, that went away and she started to heal, and the bullet fragments came out of her. Yeah. Now, mind you, I'm in the Midwest. Doctors think I'm completely crazy. They say the dog was shot in the head, Charlie. The bullet fragments are migrating in towards her brain. You know, any day you have her is a good day. I don't know how long she can live. Totally false. Me and Star, we lived our lives. The dog loved crunchy broccoli and peanut butter. Crunchy broccoli with some peanut butter drizzled. I took her to an event at Whole Foods for shelter dogs. People tried to feed her chicken. She wanted no part of it. She was particular in what she ate. And she was such a strong spirit and gentle at the same time. She was a Buddha. She was a Buddha. And that was the best way to explain it. I will share this. When I took her to the Alzheimer's event, there is no survivor's walk. If a family member gets Alzheimer's, it's done. A big gentleman said to me, "Do you mind if I take a photo of your dog?" "Go ahead, sir." "Do you mind if I hug your dog?" This man looked like he was 6'8". He held her forever. I said, "Sir, do you mind me asking you what you do for a living?" "I'm a federal judge." So she moved people from every walk of life. Wow. From every walk of life. And you know this funny thing I've learned? Because of the way Star carried herself, no one ever asked me what was her breed. Nobody ever did. Huh. No one ever said what was her breed. And the universe gave us so much. I remember going to P.F. Chang's one time and bringing the food out to my pickup. And we were eating outside in Omaha, Nebraska. And the waitress came out and said, "Sir, we're not dog friendly, but why don't you bring your dog in?" I mean, these are the kind of things that happened. And I did everything with her. You know, I'm in recovery. I've been sober for over 25 years. Wow. In the software underbelly that was done in April of last year. I was 24, 25. I just celebrated in April. I brought her to all these recovery events, which was very healing for her too. Star gave back to the human population a tremendous amount. And because of her notoriety, we saved so many dogs in the name of Star. Because people wanted to do something good because they felt good. "Charlie, what can I do?" Go to your local shelter and adopt a dog in the name of Star. And if you have a dog, try to hang in there and don't bring it to the shelter. And I solved a lot of problems for people that wanted to give up dogs because of tenant-landlord issues. It's amazing when you explain, you know, we're going to put up a gate, we're going to put up a dog run, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, generally people that have dogs are good tenants because if they love their dog, they can't find a lot of places to live, so they're pretty reliable. Star was like a college education for me. I think the biggest thing that happened for me in my life was this, and you've heard this, is I had a spiritual awakening in Brooklyn in the 90s. And I just came clear that I was on drugs and I'm never going to do this again. And I went to a monastery in upstate New York in the early 90s. And I got clean. Well, they heard about this story with Star. And 25 years later, in 2018, I went to the monastery on one condition: I bring Star. And here she is in a monastery with addicts and alcoholics. And she would walk around the grounds and give so much peace. And the priest insisted that she eat with us off the plates. I mean, it was just so many wonderful things. Like when people say it's just a dog, that was not the case here. And I have a lot of rescue dogs, and I love them all, and they all have unique personalities. But there was one Star, and she was just that smart. And she was a natural pack leader. I mean, she was a girl dog that when she was in the home, the other dogs just knew, Mama Bear is here. Unfortunately, Star wound up at her just before her 10th birthday. She got transitional cell carcinoma, which is a cancer, which ended her life. But I had her diagnosed in January, and she died February 19, 2021, but just in Star mode. She wasn't sick very long, and I was going to give her a bath that day, and I went to pick her up, and she just expired. And it was just uneventful that way. But she had passed, and a big part of me died that day. A big part of me died that day. I've learned a lot, but part of my spirit has been very difficult to come back from that, because I really felt as though I had purpose. I not only did that, but my fiance wrote a book about bullying. And the reason why was because we noticed when we first got Star, not everybody's a dog lover out there. Nobody asked about her breed, like I said earlier, but people would yell out, "What happened to your dog? Why is she missing an eye?" And Star was smart enough to know the energy was not good. So Star looked different because of the injuries and the part of the skull that was damaged. Jen watched all this transpire, and she watched the other dogs around Star. And we literally saw the way words of bad energy affected Star.
Yeah.
And we came around and we made a big deal about her. And so I'm a Star. It's available on Amazon. It really deals with the core, especially what kids are going through. If kids feel like they're different, if they look like they're different, any of these things. And growing up was not easy when I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Kids were mean-spirited even back then. And the most important thing, I think, is to have a safe environment when you're growing up. And that's where the energy has to be put. And that's why I'm so much for dogs in children's lives, because they're superheroes.
Angel, I think you want to jump in there.
Well, I'm taking all this in because I lost my dog 5 years ago, and I had him for 15 years, named Chris, Big John. And this dog was like, everybody loved him also, and like he's always clowning around. You know what I mean? And it was my daughter's dog. And when he passed away, I cried so much. I'm not lying to you. The whole hospital cried. That's the other one by Executive Boulevard. They were crying. And it's like something you never forget. It's in your heart forever. These dogs are like, well, like they say, dogs spelled backward is God. You know what I mean? They're part of your life. But talking about special, also Star. Star was from the streets, like you. And, Star wanted to protect his owner, not only from the cops, whoever was around the owner. That's why it was so hard to save the owner. The owner had epileptic, right? Seizure. So, the cops had to try to help this guy. And it's hard because they couldn't. And then, unfortunately, the dog launched at the cop. And, and the thing is, like, in everything else in the police department, when a tragedy like this happened, I mean, Star is so special. Not only he's special, like you were saying, but me as a cop, he's so special because he changed some rules in how to go towards a dog.
But on the part of cops, I think you want to make it.
There's some kind of procedure for it doesn't happen. So Star did this, okay? And the thing is, when I was in academy, they didn't teach me anything about animals. I learned about animals with my father. We grew up in a farm in Puerto Rico. So I know a lot about animals. But the thing is, us, what we have to do is we have to protect property and people. And the cops were in to save this person, and the dog was in the way. And when the dog ended up lunging at the cop, I think he was trying to lunge other people. It was getting closer, right? Lady was trying to get
Lady,
involved.
the officer was doing a good job keeping people away, but this one woman did not listen to his directives, and she wanted to do animal training with Star, and Star was not having it. Star ran her off, and the minute she ran her off, the officer came to her defense, and then Star made a beeline right towards the officer. He drew his pistol, and he shot her. It was a crazy shot. It wound up hitting her just underneath the eye, exploding there, and it was just how she lived that situation with all the blood loss. It really is a miracle story.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So your dog changed that part right there, and then from there, I mean, it was like a miracle. And I didn't know what happened to the dog myself after that. And that's the then the dog died. But then it came out that you did your investigation and proved he's not dead. He's alive.
Yeah, I did.
And the thing is, the dog is alive. And you're all the way in Nebraska. This dog is in New York. And you felt the connection with this dog from over there and knew this dog was alive. And you end up having Star. I mean, how much did it cost? It's like $10,000 in vet bill, right?
Well, over that, there's so much to it. She was put into a rescue in Philadelphia with a different name. They certainly didn't want to give it to me initially. There was a lot of red tape to get her and adopt her. But ultimately, I stayed on this, and ultimately, I was on this from day one. And the media was very, the media, people are negative sometimes with the media, but the media took a liking to Star like no other. And we had some big name media in her corner. I mean, when you got New York Magazine in your corner, Gothamist, the Daily Mail, Daily News was really, I mean, the minute they knew Star was alive, they put their headlines, Pitbull in East Village making lightning speed recovery.
Yeah.
The Daily Mail, Nebraska man believes in miracles. So there was so much, the universe sent so much good energy out. And it really was a feel-good story. And the reality is this. In 2012, it's not 1953. It's not Lassie. Lassie wouldn't make it today. We need a story of a street guy and a pit bull. I mean, it's perfect for what's going on.
Yeah.
And people identified with that. And there are so many people that look like they got it all together. And they may currently, but they would reach out to me behind the scenes and say, you don't realize how much your story has helped me. I may go work on Wall Street, but I've had similar problems like you. And I have never told anybody. I mean, people had reached out to me behind the scenes incredibly. And, I got millions of views of me talking about Star and talking about this story. I mean, it has gone on and on and on. David Hoffman, a filmmaker from the 60s, he did a story on me. And he said, the reason why you went for this dog is you identified with the dog.
Yep.
And I did identify with the dog. And at the end of the day, I think everyone can understand this. If you had a lousy childhood and there was an opportunity to do a do-over, you would do it. I was given that opportunity because I had made enough money in the trash business that I didn't have to do this every day to pay bills anymore. And I wound up selling the business and using my time to do things that were greater than feeding myself and keeping a roof over my head. And what's amazing? When that's all you think about is paying your bills and keeping a roof over your head, it seems like it's insurmountable. But once you let go and turn it over to God and say, okay, God, help me over here. I'm going to do this over here. I mean, some really wonderful things happened.
Yeah.
So many things happened.
Yeah.
When a parent reaches out to you and says their child's dying of cancer, but they heard a Star story, can you give a lock of the hair, or can you give us a memento from Star? I mean, you realize that this is bigger than any event that you could ever imagine. I felt like I didn't do well in high school. I narrowly graduated. but I felt like I made something in my life because I did something to help the human spirit. And that's what's really needed. And we got involved with the Alzheimer's walk because Jen, grandmother, had died from it, and it was not a pretty death. And I realized how horrible this is, that there's no disease that takes away your mind and you don't even know who you are on the way out. And the family don't know. It's terrible. So we got involved with that. And the next thing we did was people started bringing all their dogs to Alzheimer's walks. Because at first, the first couple of years when we went, people really, it was new and they didn't know really what to do or how to act. But once I brought Star, then people started bringing their dog the following year and the following year. And the dogs became the mascots. And it brought such good energy. And quite honestly, I think Star has done so much for the breed. I think that the media is very cautious now to say pit bull. I think only in extreme cases. And I also think that people in different municipalities aren't using the pit bull ban. They're saying, okay, we're going to have a dangerous dog ordinance because any dog could bite. And I would bring up stuff like, well, what happened to the Dobermans from the 70s? Did they stop biting? Or is the media focusing on this dog? So the purpose of Star was tremendous. And Jen took up and wrote the book, I'm a Star, which handled that. And I finally wrote up the 14th and 2nd, which is a memoir of my life and coming out the other end of this. And David Hoffman, the filmmaker, said when Star died, he said, Charlie, you must do something good out of something bad. You must do something good out of something bad. And what I did was, I didn't let Star's story die, and I won't let her story die. And in November of this past year, I went to sleep. Everything was okay. I have good health. And a blood clot went to my brain and gave me a stroke, which I almost died from in my sleep. And it was a really dark period for me. I was paralyzed in half my body and learning how to re-walk, learning how to speak correctly again. And speak correctly for me was never the greatest. I already chopped up the English language, but learning how to be, able to communicate because it was bad, and being able to learn how to cut my food again, eat and not choke. My journey with Star, I said to myself, if Star was here, she would march forward. She didn't care what any of the doctors said. I remember a doctor telling me, oh, she's going to have arthritis. She never got arthritis. She never had any of the issues from the bullet. I mean, canine cancer is very common. It's common in humans now, of course. And of course, the dogs are they're similar to us because they eat, they breathe, and they live on the same planet. They're getting sick at the same rate we're getting sick. But the bullet did not kill Star. She wound up leaving this planet from a disease, but she left on her terms. She was here one moment, and then she was gone.
Did you think that were you able to forgive the people in your childhood, your parents, based on what you learned through Star? Because forgiveness, when you have a tough background, forgiveness is a big part of the healing.
You have to. I had to come, but I only came to these terms when I wrote the book 14th and 2nd and put my feelings into a book and then looked at the whole thing. And I looked through life the way Star did. Now, my mentality is not nil, but Star didn't have any bitterness towards human beings or anything. And believe me, she's smart enough to know she was injured because if she heard any fireworks, or in Nebraska, gunshots are pretty, because it's rural, she knew what a gunshot was. But I had to let go. I had to be the Buddha that she was. And at this point in my life, I really can't hold on to any negativity because I've been forgiven by a lot of people. I mean, who goes through this life without making a mistake and stepping on the feet of others? I mean, you just have no idea that you're doing this. Sometimes we step on the feet of other people and we don't know at the time of incident that we hurt somebody's feelings or we did something. It's not till years later that I got a platform with Star and someone would write to me or send me a message on Facebook, Charlie, you turned out really good, but in the 12th grade, you were a little rough on me, or this or that. And I'm glad that people have come forward, because I am far from a perfect human being. I'm an infallible human being, always trying to make myself a better person. And the dogs are just a great place for me to see that when people say to me, I'm having problems with my dog, I know it's problems with them. If I want peace in my home with my dogs, the peace has got to start here. I mean, I have to have a routine. My dogs have to eat at a certain time. I get up in the morning. I don't start my day insane. I mean, anybody that's been around dogs know they get up in the morning with a smile, and they stretch, and they drink water, and they want to go outside. They get grounded. And, as a human being, I do everything that my dogs do. I mean, I'm drinking water. I'm going outside. I'm grounding. I'm stretching. I'm doing everything I can to get my health back. Because in that 1 second, a simple blood clot almost killed me. And I got no comorbidity issues. So that's the crazy thing about this story. It just almost like that happened. But I'm here today, and I'm honored that we're talking about Star. And I'm honored to anybody that listens to this story, because if they're struggling, they need to know this. There's always second chances, and it comes in the simplest form as tomorrow. Okay? What a difference a new day makes. And what a difference problems make when they're shared. People are in their own minds. They think they've made the biggest messes out of their life, but they don't realize there's redemption, there's hope. And people, especially New Yorkers and people in the country, they are very big on second chances. If you're willing to do the work, you're going to have an army of people behind you. I mean, nobody likes a bully. And if you put your flag up and say, I surrender to my old behaviors, if you had a problem with drugs or alcohol, I need help, and you do get the help, and you're starting to build a life of sobriety, you're going to have more help than you could ever imagine. I'm a living example of that.
Well, I mean, that's, you couldn't have summed it up better. You couldn't have summed it up better, Charlie. I mean, this is just, man, your life, your narrative, everything is phenomenal. I have no other words to describe it. And what you said tonight, we cannot see the people that we are talking to. I know I sound like an evangelist right now.
No, you can't.
But there's somebody out there who has been moved and whose life will be changed by what they just heard from Charlie Cifarelli tonight. And if you want to reach out to Charlie, give him your contact. Well, not your phone number, but you have a website.
Yeah, I have my charliecifarelli.com, which is easy to find, and you can email me there. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. And the most important thing I want you to do is to forgive yourself out there, because nobody's a bigger critic than ourselves. People are busy with their own lives. I mean, they might say something in passing, but we hold on to so much weight on our shoulders that it's not necessary. Here I am. I have a dog that was shot by the NYPD. I was a kid that was in trouble with the NYPD, and they were always like big brothers to me. Even if they were heavy-handed back in the 80s, back then they had the billy clubs, they wanted me to go down the straight and narrow, and I just needed that nudge. In the end, I go and become a correctional officer. You can't make this up. I wind up with all the keys at the prison system. I work death row. And I wind up with police officers as friends now. So my friends are basically the following people: veterinarians, police officers, correctional officers, and people who've served in maximum security prisons who need to know, how do you start a second chance, Charlie? How do I get my first job with a felony conviction? Well, it makes a big difference when somebody's willing to vouch for you. And for me, to have people that have served their time and that have been paroled, and they reach out to me with questions. How do I get my first job? Or what do I put on a resume? Or how do I, this is big stuff, because our criminal justice system is built on mercy, okay? And people don't realize that. But that is really what it's built on, is mercy, because we don't have an eye for an eye justice system. And when people get high on their horse, We don't have that. And a lot of times people are so frustrated with other things, and then somebody breaks the law in front of them and they want to throw the book. Oh, look at that. No. You're already upset about other things. This person did something stupid. We're not going to throw the book at them. They need some help. And I think there needs to be more advocates like myself, yourself, and Angel that can communicate outside of a badge, but know to give some tough love.
Yeah. All right, well, and with that, Angel, I'm going to let you have the last word, bro.
But let me say what you also got the Star Project, right?
Yes.
So in the Star Project is, that's where you do the saving dogs.
Saving dogs, education, rehoming, foster. We do it all. Jen is the founder of that. I became the co-founder. And we have a good network out there that we are able to help special needs. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still
Okay.
good.
We're able to help special needs dogs. And Angel, I had a situation not too long ago. I mean, I'm coming out of a stroke. A woman had a bully breed dog. She wanted to give the dog up. The dog had nipped her, and that was the end for the dog because she was trying to clip the dog's nails. And I said, well, let me ask you, how many dogs' nails have you clipped? I haven't clipped any. So she's going to start out with her dog from the shelter, which didn't have a long background. And here's the thing. I found somebody willing to take the dog. But once I met the dog and I showed her how I was around the dog, I said, this dog has an issue with its paws. It don't even want to give me his paw. He's got some stage fright. I don't know what his background is. But a lot of times you can do a lot in rescue by keeping a dog with somebody or also helping somebody. Sometimes people don't know that there's resources out there.
Yeah.
They have to take a job and they realize they're going to have to give up a dog. But there are resources and there are ways to help people when they currently have a dog and not give up a dog. And especially spay and neutering. I am big on that. I mean, Bob Barker started that 50 years ago. And I remember as a kid, it drilled in my mind, don't forget to spay and neuter your dogs.
That's how Angel always closes the show. That's how Angel always closes. That's his mantra. And Angel, at the end of every show, Angel says, people, please remember to spay and neuter your pet. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, you're totally in sync. So
we all got to live on this planet, Angel. We all have to live on this planet. And the sooner we learn how to get along with everybody, the better off we're going to be. And especially with the dogs. Dogs are mainstream now. They are part of people's families. It's just not a dog. There's tethering laws. You best not keep a dog in a car on a hot day because people will break a window as if it's a child, and rightfully so.
yes.
People have gotten where dogs are part of our family, and it's needed because of so much mental illness that's out there that's not talked about.
Yeah.
That dogs and any companion animal helps human beings beyond, I feel, any medication ever can. And that's important. We could talk about this for days. This is my love.
Well, you're gonna come back and you're gonna do this all over again. I mean, not the same time, but you're gonna come back because you can talk about it. And trust me, we don't mind you talking about it. We want you to talk about it. And there are a lot of people out there that want you to talk about it. So please, you got to promise us that you will come back and we will talk more. Because this isn't a one-on. I mean, your life story it's so full, and you have so much to say, Charlie. And I would really, from the bottom of my heart, I really want you to come back. That guy over there handles all the scheduling, so I'm going to leave it up to him. I'm not putting him on the spot, but I think this is something that he wants to do too. But for tonight, I think we are concluding part 1 of the Charlie Cifarelli interview. So, Angel, I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, Charlie, thank you for coming. And let me tell you one thing. Star is gone, but never forgotten. And the legend goes on. Okay? She will always be remembered. And we're going to make sure, and we are making sure, that she is never forgotten.
You bet.
Right? So, and also get his books in Amazon, his books and his wife's books. Also go to your project, right? Star Project. It's .org.
Thought Project, and CharlieCifarelli.com.
Yeah. Go there to know more about him and more about Star. And do you know where your pets are? And please, take care of your pets.